Good morning, good day, good evening. My name is Jonathan Regan, also known as New Questions. Welcome to another blockchain education recap video. Bitcoin. It's basically going sideways, doing nothing. We're going to talk about that in a second. Sorry, it's been a little while since I've done my recap. Been about a week, actually. Lots and lots of altcoin gains in that time from the analysts doing manual calls and also the automated algorithms throwing out signals. I've been busy doing social media marketing, which I got to say is a lot more difficult than cryptocurrency trading because of the inherent bans on crypto-related advertising by Google and Facebook and Twitter. Anyway, that's been taking my time up. Luckily, we have a whole bunch of 24/7 analysts, and they're doing a great job. And the algorithms are doing fantastic entries and exits. Let's go in and have a look at what we're talking about. Okay, let's start here, right here with Bitcoin. As I mentioned many times over the last 2 or 3 weeks, when we get this sort of explosive move, we often run sideways, and you can see that we're pretty much in a very, very narrow sort of tight range. I've mentioned a few times that we're going to be $1,000 above or below the sort of the $10,000 level. If I run a line through here, let's just kind of, I don't know, let's sort of dissect it. Let's go there. So that's that line is at 9,200. And then I'm going to throw another line sort of here, and I'm going to throw another line sort of here. So you can imagine that in this zone here, we're going to get some sort of activity, and you can see that we've had, pretty much moved to the top and the bottom, and now we're kind of somewhere in the middle. So I wouldn't necessarily say that there's any way that we can predict which way Bitcoin's going to go, up or down. A lot of the time we can use the actual trend, the trend channels to actually kind of suggest which way we're going. So we might sort of have some sort of trend channel running down here. Let's change that to blue. And when we get a sort of a breakout of that trend through the roof of the trend channel, say here, we might suggest that's something of an uptrend. And then of course we get this sort of ridiculous activity and we get something of a downtrend. So it's unfortunately for us, we're pretty much at the beck and call of the people who are manipulating the market right now. This recent massive pump from $7,400 up to $10,400, designed just to knock out margin traders. I've said it all before. Right now, am I bullish on Bitcoin? Am I bearish? I'm not really sure. Being so close to the $10,000 psychological price point, you really can't say one way or another whether or not the market's going to completely reject it or we're going to embrace 10,000, build a support and go higher. Anybody that you're watching on YouTube who seems to have 100% down pat confidence in their decision up or down, they don't really know what they're talking about. I don't think anybody really knows which way Bitcoin's going to go right now. Certainly the indicators don't suggest much because the ADX is sort of basically barely DI positive and it's under threshold. And Wells Wilder would suggest that that means that we're just not trending. We're not going up or down. We're running sideways, and we can see that in the actual chart here. Pretty obvious. Let's go and have a look at the 4 hour. Have a look, and let's clear this up a little bit. You can see that we made that explosive break over the 200 moving average and got well above the 50. This massive explosion here, DI positive and really impressive. But what happened here is that we lost the trend. Essentially, ADX went under threshold. And at this point here, I'm just going to draw a line. At that point there, which we can kind of extend up here, around about this area, we lost the trend. So in other words, this beautiful uptrend, which was very fast and rapid, essentially at this point here, the trend ceased to exist. And now what we're doing is we're running sideways. You can see we're under the threshold, we're barely DI positive. And we can see what happened last time that happened when we went here. We went below, see how we go below the threshold, right about here, and we sort of sat under or on that threshold all the way to here. So this period of time here, you can see that for the majority of that time, let's clean all this up and use some pretty boxes instead. For the majority of the time through this area here, we were pretty much not doing much at all, not trending essentially. And we can tell that because of the ADX. We're sitting below, this line comes down and through, and we're sitting below, so we're just sort of sitting around that threshold, sitting under it. This means we're essentially not trending. We have an explosive move here, but we've gone back into the same sort of reality here where we're below the threshold, we're only barely DI positive. So can we imagine that this sort of sideways action can be repeated over here? Yeah, sure. I mean, we might repeat it. We might just continue going sideways into the weekend and we'll just see how we go. None of this really matters much unless you're a real Bitcoin hardcore maximalist and you only trade against US dollars. For the altcoin traders amongst us, of which Blockchain Education is basically a specialist company designed to help you trade altcoins, this is fantastic news. Like this is absolutely brilliant news. And to prove that this is great news, let's go and have a look at some of the recent calls. Now, in the past, I've talked about a coin called Chili, CHZ. I talked about it in the previous videos. I was explaining how the trend looked really nice. Let's have a look at Chili's here on the 45-minute. I'm going to pop that one on, turn that one off. Now, when we started calling this, the analysts were calling it down here, the algorithms were calling it here, and we had an explosive move. Now, this is out of this region here, we went as much as 91% in 6 days, which is absolutely staggering. I mean, what ends up doubling your money in less than a week? What we can do here is we can actually run a Fibonacci retrace zone up into this sort of area here. And you can see there's a few things that are immediately in play. Firstly, I'm using this as the place where the trend changed from a downtrend to an uptrend. And that becomes one of my extremes for the Fibonacci point. These two here are algorithm entries. We called it plenty of times. And I'm just going to assume that the very top of this candle was the actual extreme max where the trend once again changed. If that's the case, then we can run a Fibonacci tool from this level here all the way up to this level here. And as you can see, it's surprising how often this comes into play. Like, for example, there's your 50% retrace. And look where we are. We're on a 50% retrace. This means that from the top up here and from the bottom down here, this entire percent is, let's say that's a 100% move. Then if we come back down to this area, that's a 50% retrace. So in other words, the price has come back a full 50%, and we also happen to be colliding with the 200 moving average. Oftentimes, this is an extremely useful place to be buying. The 200 moving average and a 50% retrace. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say that this area in here might be the perfect place to pick up some low-cost chilies, and then think about looking for a bounce up in this sort of general direction, and possibly even going higher. So we'll see. I don't necessarily recommend trading reversal patterns. I know some of the guys, some of the analysts and the algorithms do. I'm not a big fan of it, but I would suggest from 3 years of watching these charts, doing this exact methodology, that this is potentially a good place to buy, especially for those of you who got in early on the calls and ended up making the better part of 100%. So Chili's has come to the end of its trend. As we can see, DI negative, trend is over, but this place here might be an important place to pick up. Look for the algorithm signals, look for the calls from the analysts, and we might be on our way to another higher high. So very interesting. Let's look at Vechain. Also one of the ones that I talked about in the past on the YouTube videos. You can see pretty nice sort of move here, straight off that 200 moving average. We got the original algorithm decision down here when it broke the 200, ripped across that 50. This was a really nice entry, and if you got in here at the beginning, you're up 44% in 10 days. So really nice move here. Interesting coin, come out of the top of the RSI cave. Pink Barbie support here across that 200 moving average. Really nice place to accumulate. As soon as it went DI positive with a positive threshold, you really want to think about getting in here. You're looking at a move, what are we, like 28% here. So all of these were called by the system, and ultimately just a nice looking trend. Like pretty interesting looking trend. Do I think we might get some sort of retrace? I think so. Our cyclic nature means that we're going to be looking at something like this. We'll probably come back into this point and then go up again. So we'll see. I'm not going to suggest anything other than the fact that we're coming up, and we broke that 50. 50 sort of sats here. It was a pretty important psychological zone. We've broken it. We're now at 56. I would say let's go out to the 4 hour and just see what sort of resistance lies ahead. Let's have a look. Okay, so we have a zone up here that looks a little bit clunky. I wouldn't be surprised if this is about as far as we go, certainly up to in around that 60 zone. This area here was a place where we rejected just under that 200 moving average. We rejected and ended up heading down. This might be a place where we reject it and head down as well, as people take their profits from inside this area here. All right, let's have a look at a faster moving candle. Very interesting. Excellent BTC Stellar. I believe this had something to do with burning a whole bunch of coins. We can see that there was some really wonderful entries down here, broken across the 200, lots of pink Barbie, excellent accumulation zone in here. Good place to be picking up, and some huge moves here. Now we can see it's now come back through that 200 moving average, the 50 and the 200 moving average. This is the 50 and this is the 200 moving average. So the price is now below both of them. It's kind of heading down with certainly DI negative. The trend is actually starting to pick up. That means that the downtrend is actually starting to increase in power. Interesting though that the algorithm in both instances, you can see here, beautiful, perfect place to be buying and a perfect place to be buying. In both instances, it forecast this massive pump in advance. Great job by the algorithms and by the analysts doing that. Let's have a look at Orgirl, Rep BTC, same sort of situation. Beautiful pink Barbie zone here. Really fantastic looking coin, this one. Good accumulation zone, broke away from the 200, broke above the 50. Really a lot of DI positive activity here, spend a lot of time above the threshold and just continues going up. But you got to see at some point in here, we ended up getting sort of a change in the trend and we broke below. We went red on the Madrid average. We came off the roof of the RSI cave and just started falling. Now we have a little recent uptick, but I'm not so sure I can be all that excited about that. It does, however, make me think, just from eyeballing, that this is going to be a Fibonacci level. So I'm going to run across here with my Fibonacci. I'm going to go across here. So let's have a look. Yeah, pretty much right on it, right on it, right on it, right on it. 1, 2, 3, up into this area. A couple of times, and once again right on it. So a 382 retrace, 38.2% Fibonacci retrace, assuming that this is one extreme and the double high up here is another extreme. So huge calls on REP. We'll have a look at those in a second. I'll throw up the summary screen. I'm going to have a look at Algo. Now, Algo is one of those things that we've been talking about a fair bit. Also looking really interesting. Algorand, technically. We saw the initial break across the 200 and the 50 moving average down here. And then we saw this kind of a sort of a 200 moving average bounce, kind of similar to what I was suggesting with CHZ. Chili's, it comes back into that 200 moving average and just bounced really nice. Before, the 200 moving average acted as a place of resistance. In this place, it acted as a place of support. Algo doing interesting things, really nice looking trading here. Let's have a look at it on the 4 hour actually and just see what sort of stuff we're talking about here. Yeah, so looking really positive. Triple algorithm signal, higher lows, technically a higher high, DI positive and a trend. So we are uptrending. I'm thinking this looks pretty nice. Where can we go from here? I don't know, but I got to say, having spent so much time downtrending, this is looking really, starting to look really positive. We've pretty much broken out of this range now. There's a range here, and you can see once again cyclic motion involved here. So we're just, I don't know. I would say sort of Algo might not be the greatest thing long term, but we're definitely starting to see some sort of evidence that it's starting to show up with some bullish intent. Let's go and have a look at Atom, another A coin, Atom BTC. Beautiful trend. I would say this probably gets trend of the week, right? Look at that, just an absolutely staggeringly attractive trend. Not the best trend channel because I'm just trying to do this nice and fast. Once again, we can see we went DI positive above the trend here, in and out, like a nice looking sort of uptrend here, a series of higher lows and higher highs and continuing to go up. Does it have much more in it? Well, we're at that 4,000 psychological area now. I would say this might be about as far as we get. You can actually see on the shorter term that we're now making a series of lower highs. We're also coming back towards that 50. We're starting to head down towards the floor of the RSI cave. We're starting to go DI negative, and we're starting to get into a situation where there's no real uptrend anymore. The uptrend's over. Beautiful run there for Atom though. Let's go and have a look at what that worked out at. As much as 22% in 5 days. Lovely. Litecoin. Don't often see Litecoin mentioned because, well, it's a boring coin. I've always said it. But we can see here just making a new higher high as I do this video here, up around about 6,800. Good entry here. Great entry as it came across the 200 moving average. Up 8% in the last 3 days. Really easy trend to spot. DI positive. Nice trending asset. Look, from about here on, that was dead set easy. Easily traded. Nice little 8% move by Litecoin, good with leverage. Let's have a look at Comodo. Another one of these coins that I really like. I like to see these types of nice looking trends here. Breaks across that 5200 gap. We've got an algorithm signal down here and going as high as 39% in 3 days. Starting to get a bit of a movement back down here. You can see that we're starting to get a little bit less DI positive action. We'll probably end up coming down here. This black line, the trend will probably come down. We might end up coming down to the bottom of the bands. This is the bottom of the bands coming through here. And then we might find a new higher high. And that would be a series of higher lows and another higher high. Do I think it can go higher? Let's have a look at the 45. Let's look at the 4 hour actually. That's pretty high. That's pretty high against the... actually, it's not too bad. In fact, it's technically speaking a higher high. Let's go and have a look at the daily and see if we can get some sort of confirmation here. Well, I got to say the daily's not looking so great. We've had an extensive downtrend. How long has this been going on for? Date range. As an investor, you wouldn't have been happy. 146 days, basically half a day of downtrend. But look, we got some sort of positive action here. For those in Comodo who are looking for some sort of break, we might end up going back to this 200 moving average, but I think it's going to take a long time. We are DI positive, but the trend is still very, very weak. We really want that to come up here, and then we're going to be in better shape. Last one I want to talk about is Tomoe chain. We can see beautiful move here across the 200 and the 50. Another algorithm entry here. So getting in here, going as high as, let's go from the 200, going as high as 50% in 6 days was nice, but then we got into this downtrend here. We broke below the 50 and we've just fallen. You can see here, DI negative, trend is strong, and then we're coming back. Let's try and throw up a Fibonacci chart, see what we can see. I'm going to go out of this area here, throw it up here. Yeah, we're basically back down on that 50% moving average. One extreme down here, the other extreme up here, 50% retrace. Here we are, Fibonacci, 50% retrace. The only problem with this one is that the 200 moving average is up here. And so I don't know if this can hold. We might end up going a 61.8%. 61.8% Fibonacci retrace. I also call it the buyer zone. So often this is a place to accumulate. Oftentimes it's a place of previous support and resistance. You can actually see it over here. Pretty decent place to accumulate. And we might see some more action going on. So let me jump back here. So I've got to be honest, it's been a pretty quiet market this week. You'll see some of the statistics on some of the gains in the calls, and you realize that it was a fairly quiet market. And I think that's kind of because Bitcoin traders are kind of wondering what's going to happen to Bitcoin. Are we going to get to $10,000? Are we going to break it? Or are we going to plunge back to sort of $7,500? And I think a lot of people are sitting on the fence right now, and they're not really going into altcoins. So those were probably the pick of the bunch. I mean, obviously there's hundreds, if not thousands, of calls and signals coming out of blockchain education every single week. But these are the ones that I wanted to show, which are just kind of nice to look at in terms of our methodology, the Fibonacci 200 moving average, that 50 moving average, RSI cave, Madrid moving averages, all that sort of stuff. Just kind of goes to show visually what's going on in the market. Let's talk about the company. Company is doing great. Signal service doing well. We're building out some new stuff to allow our members to automate the buying and the selling of these types of signals, and I'm really, really quite excited about that. More to come. We're doing a current special right now, so if you're interested in getting into blockchain education at a great price, then check out the discount coupon below. If you're enjoying the videos, please like, share, subscribe, comment. We appreciate it. It's we're getting a bit of traction on YouTube, and if you're making any money, just let us know. Let us know in the comments. That'd be nice. And I think that's about it. I think I'm pretty happy with how the market's going right now. We're pretty flat. Before we go, let's go and have a look at the call system. I'll just refresh this. So obviously, the analysts being sort of more in touch with the market have been doing a lot of manual calls recently, and you can see these ones, just great results, good, fantastic, consistent results by the analysts at Blockchain Education. That means humans are actually doing these calls, so they're charting them, they're throwing up all the information, massive calls on some of these. Chile's running 81%. Now that's not a theoretical thing, that's when the analyst basically said buy it now, and if you sold out at the correct time, you end up with 81%. So I'll just scroll down quickly here. You can see really good job. Recently, here's some of the shorter term signals, and you can see that some of the results are not all that spectacular. I think this is kind of a result of the market being a little bit hesitant. I mean, we still all have our 20s and our 20s and our 20s and all that sort of stuff. I'm just going to scroll down here. We've got a couple of 30s and 20s. But you can see that the results are a little bit lower than usual over the last few days. We had some great moves by rep. I talked about that, 20%. And then we're going into our medium signals, which are also pretty fantastic. Been a pretty challenging time for the algorithms and the analysts, I would say. I think this $10,000 psychological level is a really interesting place where a lot of people are just simply sitting on the sidelines. They're a bit scared to go in or out of Bitcoin. You can see the last couple of weeks' performance, really fantastic. Lots and lots of gains here, lots and lots of signals, obviously. And this is just the medium ones, out 20 days now. And now the hot signals will just keep on going. You can always pause this and rewind and do it in slow motion. Lots and lots of signals, lots and lots of calls, heaps and heaps of activity going on in the market. But the percentages are a little bit lower than normal. Dare I say, the value in the market is more diverse. It's spread across more coins, I think, as opposed to seeing some big coins like RLC or Link running 300% in a week. Instead, what we're seeing is 10% gains across 30 or 40 different coins at once. So it's something to consider. I hope you enjoyed that. Make sure to like, comment, subscribe. And I'd really love you to become a member. You can come into the chat and talk to us and build something with us. It's really exciting. Good times. Cheers.